Hello, Grow Your Future students. My name is Rachel. I'm a careers advisor for Grow Your Future, and today we're going to talk about acing assessment centres. So the first question we are going to talk about is, what are assessment centres? So assessment centres generally come at the end of the recruitment process, and they can be all or a combination of the following tasks. Now, it's important to note that every assessment centre is slightly different, so it will really depend on the company and the sector, but these are really common exercises that are often included as part of assessment centres. So just to caveat that at the beginning. So some of the things you might encounter in assessment centre are group exercises, interviews, case studies and presentations, and psychometric tests. And the key message really here, as we go into the rest of the presentation, is assessment centres are not about you being perfect. What they want to do is assess your behaviour and make sure you are the right fit for the company and organisation that you are applying for a role with. So let's get into it. What are recruiters really looking for when you go to an assessment centre? So some of the key things are those core employability skills. So you might have heard us talk about these before in previous videos. But things like communication, teamwork, problem solving, etc. You need to be able to show these key skills throughout the day whilst you're being assessed through the various activities. And these skills are really transferable from a lot of the things that you maybe have done whilst at university. So you might think, well, I've not really got many skills in problem solving, but actually from your course, from part-time work, from extracurricular activities, you'll have developed these skills, and it's your chance to showcase them. They'll also be looking for commercial awareness. So what we mean by that is an understanding of the industry that you haven't applied for a role within, and an understanding of maybe how that fits within the broader sector, what's going on in the industry at the moment, and those technical skills and abilities that might come with a role in that area. They'll also be looking for professionalism and self-awareness. So throughout the day, they will be looking for somebody who can showcase that professionalism and also has an understanding of their own strengths and how they would maybe fit within a team and an organisation. What are they not looking for? So they're not looking for the loudest person or a perfect answer. They're not looking for someone who can dominate the room. They are looking for broader skills in terms of they are looking for somebody who can be a team player, somebody who's willing to reflect, so that links into that self-awareness. And as we go through the next few slides, we'll explore that a little bit further. So just to pick up on some of the common exercises or activities, tasks that you'll be required to do in an assessment centre, one of the things that is often included is group exercises. So these might be when you are given a task and put in small teams, maybe 4 to 5 other applicants, and asked to complete a task within a time frame. So there's a few things to focus on here, really, and sometimes these activities are quite hard to prepare for because you might not have seen the material in advance, so you do have to think on your feet a little bit. So the key thing really is to listen actively. So really listen to the task that's been given to you, make sure you understand it, but also to listen to the other people in the group and make sure you're giving everybody that opportunity to talk. To build and encourage other people's ideas, so that plays into that teamwork, helping facilitate discussion, it really shows great leadership skills, so something to focus on. Keeping the group on time, so you can make sure that you're keeping a conscious effort to monitor the time, and there's a quick way that you could maybe help encourage the team to think about the deadline for that task by saying something like, can we quickly summarise where we're up to and decide on next steps as a team? Again, that shows good facilitation, good leadership and teamwork skills. And invite quieter voices where possible. So again, if there is somebody in the group that maybe isn't appearing as confident or just hasn't had the chance to offer their opinion, this is a good way to show that you've got that broad set of skills and potential. Some key things to avoid, so interrupting other team members, dismissing ideas and taking over the task. Now, these might sound quite straightforward and you might think, well, I would never do that. But sometimes in these high pressured situations, it can be easy to let that adrenaline take hold and do some of these things. So it's making a conscious effort to make sure that you don't do that. Okay, moving on quickly then to case studies and presentations. So you might also be asked to do a short presentation, or you might be given a case study in which you have to assess the situation and present back on maybe what you would do in that particular situation or scenario. This can really vary from each assessment centre from one to another. So again, it's bearing that in mind. Sometimes companies will give you this in advance. So they might say, we want you to prepare a bit of a presentation on this topic, in which case you have a little bit more of an opportunity to look at that in advance. Some key things really to focus on when you're sort of looking at this kind of activity or what assessors might value is thinking about the structure. So have you got a clear structure to what you're presenting? Are you being logical in the way that you're presenting that information? Are you justifying decisions? So always think about if you're making a point, where's that evidence? Are you explaining it? Are you justifying why you've made that decision? And speak with confidence but not certainty. So think about how can you portray that you feel confident but that you know that you're not necessarily an expert in that area at this stage. So you're willing to learn and develop as you go throughout the role if you are offered it. A simple outline that you can follow. Again, this really will depend on what they've asked you to do, but think about the issue at hand. Give some options of how you could maybe solve that problem or approach that situation, offer recommendations, and then think about some of the risks and maybe next steps as well. The next thing that you might be asked to do as part of an assessment centre is complete an interview. Now, this could be a panel interview, a one-to-one interview. It really will vary based on company. But what I would say in this situation is that prepare for this part of the assessment centre like you would for any other standalone interview. So make sure that you are reading over your application and your CV, that you understand the job role that you're applying for, and that you've researched the company and its values. You can prepare answers and practice those in advance, and particularly the STAR technique as well. If you've been asked to do a competency-based interview, it might be a bit of a mixture of the questions. And we do have a few short videos on the different types of interview questions that you might get asked. So definitely go and look in our catalogue of short videos if you want to look at interview technique and interview questions in more detail. And finally, book a mock interview with the career service. So this is a really good opportunity to practice in a safe environment. It's an environment you can make mistakes in, and you can sort of practice those different questions that you might get asked in an interview scenario at an assessment centre. So I'm not going to go into too much more detail on interviews, even though there's a lot that we could talk about. So what I would suggest is looking at some of our other short videos if you'd like to know more about that. To round off then, for this short video on assessment centres, some top tips. So assessors are likely to be observing you from the moment you arrive, and this is something that students often forget. So the moment that you walk into that building, or even if you've had a conversation with them on the phone prior to an assessment centre, all those things are being observed. So always try and be professional, be on time for your assessment centre, if not early, and be polite and friendly. Sometimes when they have receptionists at companies. They will ask the receptionists how applicants were when they arrived in the building, and they will take that feedback on board. That is a real thing. So definitely make sure from the moment that you arrive that you are portraying the best version of yourself that you want that company to see. What I would also say is that assessment centres can feel like a high pressured environment. Sometimes they can be for a full day, and this can be overwhelming. What I would say is don't be too overwhelmed if you make small mistakes. One of the things that they do when assessing applicants is weigh up the different tasks. So we're always going to excel better in certain areas than others, and that's very individual. So it's just bearing that in mind as well. So if you do make a little bit of a mistake in one of the exercises, remember that you can pull that back in the interview, and it's not all lost if you make those tiny mistakes along the way. As always, there's lots of support out there. If you want to talk about assessment centres in more detail, and tailor that more specifically to you, book an appointment. You can email the Grow Future team, contact us on Teams, and our WhatsApp number is on the slide as well. Thank you for listening today. Bye.